It is now only a matter of time. It may be a few weeks, at most a couple of months. The U.S. State Department has ordered all U.S. citizens out of Russia as fast as possible. Now, I know a lot of people think what we have been seeing in the northern skies is some product of the Chinese, but in reality, somebody is probing our northern defenses, and it is most likely the Russians. Now, they're likely only going to get one shot. But if you wanted to cripple America's economic infrastructure, where would you hit? To use a boxing analogy, you can hit somebody in the eye and you can cause it to swell up, and symbolically, in pictures, it would make you look like you're winning, but it really wouldn't do the kind of damage that you would need to end the fight. If you could hit somebody in the ribs, though, hard enough to break a couple, perhaps cause some internal bleeding, that would end the fight far quicker. And there is one place that the Russians could hit that would be a devastating body blow to North America. Now, what I'm showing here is the confluence of the 5 biggest North American railroad companies, and still today, most goods, most commerce is done in North America on the railways. BNSF, Union Pacific, Canadian National, CSX, Norfolk Southern, all meet in Chicago, as well as, I believe, 4 different major interstates, 80, 90, 94, I believe 55, 57. There are a ton of them up there. If you could hit one place and have it cause major economic devastation with just one shot, Chicago would be your target. And they have been probing all along the northern border. In fact, they just shot something down over Lake Huron. Make no mistake, when this comes, the Russians aren't going to be looking for symbolic victories. They're not going to be looking to hit the Pentagon or Washington, D.C., or New York. You see, that's all great for symbolic victories, visual victories. What they're going to be looking to do is cause a devastating body blow that causes internal injuries. And there's only one place. If you got one shot, which is likely all they're going to get, one shot, mark my words, keep your eyes on Chicago. Now, real quick as always, I want to be diligent and say thank you to everyone who continues to show up here every single day. You may agree with that assessment, you may not. But as long as you can maintain a level of decorum in the comment section, we would love to have your thoughts. But for those of you who have stepped up to the next level and joined us over at the Florida Maquis Patreon channel, you guys are making an amazing, amazing difference in my life. I am humbled, and I don't have the words to say, but thank you very, very much. It's only $1 per month over there. It's even less if you sign up for an entire year. Fully refundable. First 90 days. What's the difference? Primarily, the videos go onto Vimeo servers, not Google, and we can take the gloves off, so to speak, and we can show images and talk about things we would never get away with here. Never, ever. And like I said, join us. If it's not for you, you've got 90 days to figure that out. Whether you sign up for a year or you sign up just for the $1 a month, you get everything. Hundreds of videos going back years and years and years. Would love to have you there, but Reuters, 13 February. The United States tells citizens leave Russia immediately. Notice they're not telling people leave China immediately. They're not telling people leave the Koreas, leave Japan, leave Russia. The United States has told its citizens to leave Russia immediately due to the war in Ukraine and the risk of arbitrary arrest or harassment by Russian law enforcement agencies. U.S. citizens, quote, residing or traveling in Russia should depart immediately. The U.S. Embassy in Moscow said, exercise increased caution due to the risk of wrongful detentions. That's another piece of evidence that war is coming. Now, would like to give a big shout out once again to Justice Knight, Lisa Haven, Restricted Republic, they showed the flight path of aircraft that were intercepting these very strange objects over what looks like Wisconsin, Lake Michigan, the state of Michigan, and Lake Huron. These are probes. What they're sending over the poles is likely just meant to elicit an air defense response. That's it. That's all they're looking for. Where along the northern U.S. border do they react the slowest? How do they react? With what assets do they react? That is what they are attempting to ascertain. And after some time, they are going to look at the entire picture and put the whole package together. Should we come in closer to the Aleutians, way out over Alaska, and come in that way? Should we come in more direct route, maybe over Montana? What about directly over Ontario? Right across Lake Michigan? How are we going to hit Chicago? Because make no mistake, that's what they're aiming at. They're aiming at Chicago. They're trying to figure out if we have the ability to knock down what they have to send in enough time. And that's the key. We may have the ability to pick it up and intercept it, but maybe not in enough time. Because from all of my reading about these air defense tactics, what has to happen is whatever missile is launched needs to be engaged while the missile is still in the ascent phase, still in the basic burn phase. Once it gets up to orbit, once it gets up to altitude and on its way, it's moving way too fast. And if you haven't launched by this point, you're never going to catch it in time. Just because of distance and velocity and just how these things work. And if you want to know a reason why, it's very likely we started this. NATO to focus on undersea cables and pipelines. Stoltenberg vows to prevent and counter threats after Nord Stream expose blames U.S. and Norway. NATO will set up a new coordinating body to address threats to undersea infrastructure. Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said on Monday his announcement comes just days after legendary investigative reporter Seymour Hersh said the U.S. and Norway were behind the September explosions on the Nord Stream pipelines under the Baltic Sea. Quote, protection of critical undersea infrastructure will also be high on our agenda, Stoltenberg told reporters in Brussels following the meeting of NATO and defense ministers. The U.S.-led bloc, quote, has been working on this for many years, and we are now taking it to the next level. A new coordination cell will be established at NATO headquarters to map our vulnerabilities and engage with industry, which will support our efforts to prevent and counter threats to critical infrastructure, including undersea cables and pipelines. Now, how many of you remember when the current president threatened Nord Stream? See, that's going to be, on record forever. But the reality, Florida Maquis, what does this have to do with me? What can I do? How can I prepare? Well, there's a lot of opinions out there, but one thing it's going to prove, when this all falls apart, when things start to get heated up, and the government, the United States government, starts coming out with the same policies they had back in World War II, you watch how many so-called patriotic Americans start pushing back against the same things that were done in World War II. Now, this is an actual government piece. I'm out to lick runaway prices. Let's all follow the 7-key plan to hold prices down. Let's be patriotic Americans. This is World War II. Buy and hold war bonds. Pay willingly our share of taxes. Provide adequate life insurance and savings for our own futures. Reduce our debts as much as possible. Buy only what we need and make what we have last longer. Follow ration rules and price ceilings. And cooperate with our government's wage stabilization program. Follow ration rules and price ceilings. Can you imagine what so-called capitalist-loving Americans would do if Washington, D.C. came out with price ceilings, came out with policies against black markets, and established legal prices for things when inflation starts to run away to the point that nobody can afford even basic staples. You watch what happens, and you watch how many people revisit this and say, wait a minute, you mean the greatest generation, the people that won World War II, the most patriotic Americans of all, they were socialists? Why, yes, they were. They had rationing so that the wealthy didn't buy everything up, leaving nothing for anyone. See, in this particular time, it didn't matter how much money you had. You had to have not just the money, but you had to have a stamp to say that you were allowed this. Can you imagine this in modern day capitalist society? Can you imagine what Fox News will do with this? Top legal prices, except no rationed goods without giving up ration stuff, meaning I'm not going to buy anything I need, even on the black market. If I'm out of something and I don't have a ration stamp for it, I guess even if I have the money to buy it, I'm not going to buy it because it wouldn't be patriotic. It wouldn't be the right thing, the most patriotic thing to do. Can you imagine this in North America? I can't wait. Personally, this channel cannot wait until that happens and a whole bunch of Americans out there who think they're patriots, who got their guns and they're ready to fight and yeehaw, Second Amendment, they're going to realize something about what real patriotism is and the sacrifice real patriotism took. It meant no black markets. It meant working together as a team, as a group, for the good of the group. Even if you didn't like everybody in the group, even if you didn't agree with everybody in the group, you still work together. And that's going to be something that a lot of people are going to have a tough time swallowing. So, anyway, I will leave it there, but I'll show you this picture one more time. If you had one shot, and you wanted to take out the most, with that one shot, Chicago, just south, would be perfect. Absolutely perfect. You'd hit all 5 railroads. You'd hit a ton of interstate highways. You would hit fresh water supply. You would hit shipping with one shot. Mark my words. I'll leave it there. God bless. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.